Every kingdom has its power games, where the mighty and powerful vie for more might and power. In few places, however, are those games as omnipresent and elaborate as Orlais. They call it the Grand Game, the endless contest of influence, wealth, seduction, and sometimes force between the aristocrats of the Orlesian Empire. It is said that more blood is spilled in the game than in any war Orlais has ever fought. Among the nobility, status and appearance are of paramount importance. To get the better of one's fellow aristocrats and amass more prestige for oneself or one's family, any action or scheme is acceptable as long as one is not caught and the security of Orlais is not threatened. This includes murder. To facilitate these constant plots and schemes, a peculiar profession has arisen in Orlais, the bards. Elsewhere in Thedas, a bard may be a simple entertainer, but in Orlais the term implies much more. They sing and dance, they seduce and steal, they spy and murder. A bard is a mercenary actor of the game, used as an agent to further the ambitions of their employer. Despite this, nobles will more often than not welcome a bard into their home. Attempting to thwart them is part of the game. It isn't unheard of for nobles themselves to take up training in the bardic arts, or even for young nobles to become bards at least for a time. Many bards come from much more lowly backgrounds, like elves or human commoners taken under the wing of a bard master. Bards have been known to operate outside of Orlais, sometimes at the behest of Orlesians abroad, with few of Orlais' neighbors being prepared for their guile. If a feud escalates, a noble might contract the services of the House of Repose, a secretive Orlesian assassins' guild serving the aristocracy of Orlais. Though lacking the notoriety of the Antivan Crows, they have a reputation for carrying out their contracts to the letter. At one time, they continued to carry out the terms of a contract generations after the family that commissioned them had died out. They would stop only after the contract was stolen or when surviving relatives of the family were elevated to nobility and withdrew it. One would expect the common folk of Orlais to resent these power games in which they so often serve as pawns, but surprisingly many do not. Instead, they see opportunity in the fluctuations of power. They hold the largely futile hope that they or their children will one day acquire enough wealth to purchase a title from the Council of Heralds and become true players of the game themselves. Perhaps the story of Alphonse Valmont, who claimed the imperial throne after his father, a mere captain in the Orlesian army, was elevated to nobility, gives them hope. His descendants still sit the throne today, centuries later. Even elven servants play the game in their own way. For example, the mother of future Empress Celine's handmaiden had another servant accused of theft to ensure that her daughter would be chosen as companion to the imperial heir. The spirit of the Grand Game is traditionally traced to long before the founding of the Orlesian Empire, starting with Jashavis, who manipulated her brother-in-law into murdering her husband and then had him killed to take power for herself as the first native ruler of a united Orlais. Ironically, the founder of the Orlesian Empire, Cordelis Draken, despised the game. He claimed his crown through sheer force of arms and personality. He had no patience for the constant jockeying for titles and honors. He attempted to put a stop to it by banning all official titles besides Emperor and Empress, that all other aristocrats would simply be known as lords and ladies. It was perhaps the least effective act of his rule. The nobles simply began competing for unofficial titles and marks of prestige. Now his ban has been effectively forgotten. The Orlesian aristocratic practice of wearing masks in public is also a part of the Grand Game, tied to a noble's heraldry. The Council of Heralds meticulously regulates what family is allowed to wear what masks and what colors. The servants and retainers of a noble house wear lower quality masks featuring the colors of the families they serve. Ever since its introduction in the Blessed Age, membership, favor, and influence over the Council of Heralds has been highly sought after by the players of the game. The Council of Heralds is a body created by Emperor Judicael Valmont to have the final say in matters of inheritance and titles, so you can imagine why. They effectively hold power to decide winners in the game, and even decide who should inherit the imperial throne in the case of unclear succession. Such a situation occurred in 920 Dragon, when Emperor Florian Valmont died childless. It is rumored that his mistress, Dowager Lady Mantelon, had a hand in his death. The late emperor had favored his oldest nephew, Gaspard de Chalons, but the Dowager favored his youngest niece, Celine Valmont. At the time, there were many who viewed the Dowager as the true ruler of Orlais, wielding power through Florian and through her mastery of the grand game. It became a common saying among the nobility that you must dance with the Dowager if you want to play the game. It was her plan that Celine should gain sympathy from the nobility by hiring assassins to attack her own estate and frame Gaspard for the deed. But she was outplayed. Celine's handmaiden, Briala, whose parents had been killed in the slaughter, was convinced that the Dowager alone was responsible for the deed and assassinated her. And so the wheels of intrigue and power continued to turn in Orlais. One might expect the priesthood of the Chantry to be somewhat isolated from the grand game, but one would be wrong. From the Grand Cathedral in Val Royeaux, the Divine is well positioned to be an influential force. The late Divine Justinia V was regarded as one of the game's foremost players before her untimely demise in 940 Dragon. It would be no exaggeration to say that Orlaisian society revolves around its grand game. The relentless drive for prestige and power consumes almost every aspect of life. Anyone with ambition, even those with good intentions, must play just to stay afloat, let alone thrive. Thus it has been for almost 1,000 years, and it shows no signs of changing. I tried to get as much of the decadent backstabbing of Orlais in there as possible. This is one of the most important things to know about Orlais as a nation: the relentless power games. Anyway, I hope you liked the video. I'll see you next time.